Good morning, everyone. My name is Keith Kondrich, and I'm the Executive Director for the Society of St. Vincent de Paul here in the Diocese of Pittsburgh. And for today's Monday meditation, I want to talk about bushel baskets, and I want to talk about light. In the Gospel of Matthew, a passage that most of us are very familiar with, Jesus tells the parable of the basket and the light, right? And he says that you, meaning you and I, you are the light of the world. A city set on a mountain cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and then put it under a bushel basket. It is set on a lampstand where it gives light to all in the house, right? They don't put a light under a bushel basket. Matthew chapter 5. Let me tell you a little story about a lighthouse. Once upon a time, there was a lighthouse set on this vast rocky cliff. And the light that was generated by the lighthouse helped to signal ships that it was dangerous waters ahead, helped to keep them from crashing into the rocky shores that would have meant sudden death for all the passengers aboard. And one day, the lighthouse operator became sick. And so a temporary operator was assigned to manage the lighthouse. And while he was there, a great and terrible storm came up. And the substitute lighthouse operator got scared. And he noticed that there was sand and rain and seashells and driftwood branches all flying around and crashing into the lighthouse. And he got nervous. He thought, man, something is going to shatter this light. I better protect the light of the lighthouse. And so he got a tarp. And he covered the lantern in the lighthouse with the tarp. Later that night, in the middle of the storm, with no warning light to guide it, a huge cargo ship crashed into the rocks, and it sunk, and everyone on board drowned. You are the light of the world. A city set on a mountain cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and then put it under a bushel basket. It's set on a lampstand where it gives light to all in the house, for everyone to see. My sisters and brothers, each of us is a child of God. Each of us is fabulous. Each of us is unique. Each of us has talents beyond our wildest imagination. All of us have special gifts that God has given us to share with the world. And we are called to use those gifts to manifest the glory of God, to bring other people into a relationship with God, to shine the light of God on the people we encounter daily. Think about it. By virtue of our baptism, we receive God's grace. We've become members of His holy church. We've been endowed with the loving presence of the Holy Spirit. We have been literally transformed. You and me, all of us are temples of the Holy Spirit. And we are called to shine. We're called to radiate God's goodness, to radiate God's love, to radiate God's truth, to radiate God's hope to the world around us. But too often we're like that misguided substitute lighthouse operator, and we throw a canvas over that light. We somehow think that we're protecting the light from the storms outside, but all the while ships and people are crashing all around us, are sinking all around us because of the lack of light. And so rather than shining a light on the truth of Christ, we hide that light under a bushel. We put that light under a tarp, and we call that tarp political correctness. Polite people don't engage in those conversations, and so we don't challenge people on issues of the dignity of life, on social justice issues. We just prefer to quietly stay out of that conversation, and so we never share the light of Christ's truth. Or we never shine a light on the hope of Christ. We hide that light under a bushel. We call that bushel, we call that tarp, the tarp of cynicism and despair, right? The world's going to hell in a handbasket. It's pointless to have hope. There is no hope. Why get your hope up? You will only be disappointed. Or rather than shining a light on the love of Christ, we hide that love under a bushel basket. We cover it with the tarp of self-centeredness, the tarp of petty jealousy. We prevent ourselves from being vulnerable. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to extend myself to another. I need to protect my feelings. And so the love of Christ is never shared. It's never brought into the light. Is it any wonder that our world is blindly crashing into the rocks of cynicism and despair and division, the rocks of bigotry and violence, the rocks of materialism and relativism? Is it any wonder that we're all crashing into those rocks? We are the light of the world. Christ calls us that. He calls his disciples, you and me, the light of the world. Our job as Christians is to share that light, the light that we received in baptism. My brothers and sisters, if the only time that light shines is the 2 or 3 hours that you're at church each Sunday, if you keep that light hidden under a bushel during the week, if you don't share that light when you're at home, when you're at work, when you're out on the street, then I'm here to tell you, don't bother even going to church. Don't bother calling yourself a Christian, because Christ defines us. Christ defines Christians as the light of the world. Take that bushel basket off of your light. Don't cover that light with a tarp like the misguided lighthouse substitute worker. Let that light shine. This week, may the light that you have received through your baptism, may the light that you receive through your prayer, through your sacraments, through your service to others, may that light grow ever stronger and ever brighter within you. You are the light of the world. This week, may that light draw everyone around you to the safe harbor of God's truth, the safe harbor of God's hope, and the safe harbor of God's love. God bless you and have a great week.